What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Shooky from Shook Earth Media, and today we're talking about Nope. This is the third film from Jordan Peele as writer-director. It's another horror film. As you guys know, Jordan Peele made a smash hit known as Get Out a few years ago, and ever since then, he's pretty much one of Hollywood's premier auteurs at the moment of the new school. I can't think of anybody who is like a contemporary to him, and he really spoke to audiences with that first film by creating something unique, new, original. These are things that in Hollywood are kind of foreboding almost now. I mean, we got remakes and rehashes galore. So I really like that Jordan Peele is making original films and that they are resonating so much with audiences. So this film, I hope, continues that trend. I highly enjoyed the film. This review will be spoiler free. I'm not going to spoil anything because this movie, they guarded the secrets of the plot very closely, and I think that was a great move on their part, great marketing. And this film is really best enjoyed if you go in not knowing the secret at the end. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to talk about the characters and all of that, and I'm going to be a little vague about stuff that happens later. So what is this film about? Basically, right at the beginning, we get, after a little teaser shot, we'll get back to the teaser shot later, but right at the beginning, we get dropped right into the action. We are introduced to our main character, OJ. He is the son of a guy who has a ranch that provides horses for film and entertainment venues. And there's a mysterious accident where quarters are rained from the sky, and his OJ's father, played by Keith David, is unfortunately killed. And that is the setup for the movie. So right away we're dropped into the action, and it's really atmospheric. And one thing I really appreciate is how organic sounding the dialogue is. And it's well written. I mean, it's a very short scene, but right away we know the relationship between OJ and his father. Right away we know about the sister that isn't even in that opening scene, and we know a little bit about their interaction. Very concise dialogue, and it really gets to the point right away. So I really appreciate that. And we start out the film with a lot of slow atmospheric stuff, and I'm a sucker for that. I like the slow burn. This movie might be a slow burn, especially in the middle part, but right at the beginning, I mean, I'm just intrigued right away. So we have that tragic death, and then we see OJ many years later, and that's when the story picks up in earnest. And we instantly see a transformation in his character. We know that that tragedy completely changed him, and you can really see that right away. And it really shows how good the writing is in that first scene. It's so brief, and yet we have enough of perception of his personality at that point that when he's acting different later, there's a good reason for it. So he's kind of more dejected, and he's obviously dealing with the issues, and he's trying to take over the business from his father and is not having much success and is kind of broke. So that is where the film starts with OJ, and his sister is a character named Emerald, and she's probably my favorite character in the film. She's very charismatic. She's kind of the straight man in a way, where OJ is he's a bit more stoic and guarded, and all of that, and she is the one that is emoting more, and she's the one that has more personality. She's making a lot of jokes and all of that, and she of course references that OJ has changed. So I really like the dynamic between the siblings. It feels really real. So is thoughtfully written. The characters sound like real people. So that is something that is kind of rare in movies. So I appreciate that. We also have another main character played by Stephen Young. And as a huge Walking Dead fan, always great to see Glenn, one of my favorite characters on Walking Dead, so I'm a huge fan of this actor. And we get to see him play a slightly different role in this one, where he's more of a showman. He's a bit, he's obviously wearing flashy clothes. He was a former child actor, and there's a backstory with him. And I mentioned a teaser shot earlier that starts off the film. It's one of the most memorable shots ever. Was not expecting it at all. And there's no way you're going to expect this opening shot. And then once you see the full context of that shot later, it's horrific. It's one of the most memorable scenes in the movie. So I really enjoyed that part. So this film is kind of a filmmaker's film in a way. So OJ, of course, is part of the movie business and show business when it comes to handling wrangling animals and horses. And Stephen Young's character is, of course, a former child actor. So there's a lot to be said in this film about filmmaking. There's a scene early on where we get to see them on set of a film. And I haven't seen a lot of films that show movies being shot. They show a glamorized version of it. And this really felt like authentic as somebody who's been on a lot of sets and knows the type of people that you meet on set. It felt authentic, so I always appreciate seeing that. But again, that's first scene does a lot of heavy lifting because that's when we first meet M as the sister, and she really steals the show right away. We get the backstory that their great-great-great-grandfather or something was the first person ever to be filmed. It was riding a horse, and I'm pretty sure it's a true story. So I like that there's a lot of trivia, movie trivia in this film, and that's why I say it's a filmmaker's film. So if you like little Easter eggs and stuff like that, you could pick out. This is definitely one of those movies. So it's kind of fun. I mean, obviously with the background of OJ as a character working on films and such, he's wearing crew gear. This is like free shirts that they give you when you work on a film. So he's wearing stuff like that. It's just, as somebody who's a filmmaker, it's nice to see the authentic portrayal of what it actually is like to work in the movies. So I appreciated seeing that. It's a fun little detail, but really that's just the sideshow. Although thematically, there's a lot to say there. So if you want to decode what this film was about, that's where you have to start. But what is this film? I don't want to get too much into the specifics, but there's that tragic accident at the beginning that forebodes what happens later. And the film takes a while to build to that point. And I think that's really smart. And at this point, we get introduced to two main characters. And it starts off slow, animals getting scared. Of course, you've seen the poster, so you've seen the cloud in the sky. So there's mysterious things going on. We don't find out until like 2/3 of the way through what's actually happening. And we are getting introduced to the characters. And there's a couple side characters that we are introduced to as well. But I have to say, in a lot of horror films, and I don't even know that I would necessarily call this a horror film per se, although there's some really horrific imagery in it. There's like three or four scenes specifically that I'm thinking of that are like that's a horror movie right there. The rest of it, I don't know, it kind of defies categorization in a way. But a lot of horror movies fall into the trap where once you see the monster, metaphorically speaking, once you know what's happening, the film loses a lot of its muster. And it's a lot less intriguing to watch. And for example, like the show Twin Peaks, once the killer of that show was revealed, the whole plot like kind of collapsed on itself. So this film is one example that is the exact opposite. Because once we knew what was happening, I enjoyed the film a lot more. It was a lot more fun. The climax was really well done. They set up a plan. They introduced the side characters. We'll get back to the side characters in a second. But I really like to see that climax and the fact that it was more interesting once we knew more. To me, anyways. I don't know how all you guys feel. So while this film is a slow burn, and it's definitely a suspense-driven movie, there's not a minute wasted in this film that I would say. So there were some portions of the film while I was watching it where I was like, do we really need that scene? Was that scene really necessary? Specifically, there's a scene where they're going to the store to buy security cameras so they can catch footage of some of the things that are happening. And they have a long conversation with the cashier guy. And the cashier guy is kind of a jerk. He's kind of annoying. But he's kind of almost endearing in a way towards as the film goes on. I was like, do we really need this? Yes, you really need it. He's an important character for the story to work. And I once we have that full team assembled at the end, it's a lot more fun to have supporting cast there. So I think it was important in the long run. Now, Steven Yeun's character, Ricky, I have the names on the screen there. Ricky has a backstory, and that was the teaser part that I was talking about earlier. And on first viewing, it's kind of hard to see how that connects with everything else because it's kind of out of left field. It doesn't have anything to do with the plot, literally speaking. It is all in service of the themes and the metaphors of the film. So the metaphors of the film have a lot to do with animals. There's even like title cards for each of the portions of the film. That's the name of an animal. on the screen. So I say avoid those title card type of things, but again, that's just reinforcing the thematic core of the film, which has to do with animals and how they are easily frightened by loud noises and how we use them for our entertainment despite the fact that they're uncontrollable. So there's a lot of stuff going on under the surface on the unconscious, subconscious level. So if you're the type of person that likes to think about themes and what the film is trying to say, this is a film that is not simple to decode. It is interesting. It is an enigma. I'm going to be thinking about it for a couple days, and maybe I'll do a follow-up video or something, but I'm going to keep thinking about it, and it'll take me a little bit to really understand the themes in a way that I can really concisely tell them to you. But again, the film is about speaking in a language that where you don't need to explain it. The film does that for you. So there's a lot of great imagery in this movie. I don't want to spoil anything, but just some of the designs, and there's just some claustrophobic parts, and there's a lot of great imagery in this movie. There's a lot of suspense in this movie. So as far as criticisms go, the flashbacks for Steven Yeun's character, like I said, they might not fit into the rest of the film. I give it a pass because I think it fits in with the themes and all of that. And then later on, some of the stuff that Steven does in the movie is not spelled out to the viewer. So you have to kind of infer some things based on what happens, which I think is really smart. But I think a lot of audiences might not understand on first viewing why this character is doing the things he's doing, why he's significant. I was speaking with people at the theater about this. They were like, I don't know why that flashback was there. And then I was like, well, you can tell that he did this, this, and this. And they were like, oh, I had no idea. So some people might like not see that at first. You might need to view it again to really get all the finer details on that. So his character to me is very interesting, really important to the core of the film, and he's got great costume design as well. Especially there's a part where he's on stage and there's this really fancy red suit that he has. It's got flowers on it, and on the back it's got like this weird like UFO design. It's really cool looking. So I really like that. So the other supporting character in the cast is introduced very briefly at the beginning. He's the cinematographer in that film set scene that I mentioned. He comes back later. He ends up being probably my favorite character in the whole piece. Just a really authentic guy. I've met people like this working in the film industry. I'll just say that this personality type is very authentic, and he's got the gruff, gravelly voice that is very instantly recognizable. And his way of viewing things is almost cynical way of viewing things. It's very authentic. If you've worked on film sets and you know these people, these are real people. So I love that. And he plays into the film very importantly at the end. And like I said, that climax was the most fun part, and the ending was satisfying. And I walked out of the theater a happy man. So I like this movie. It's got some great imagery. I think it's really great that somebody's doing original auteur films like this that have casts of interesting characters, played very well, written well. The only real other criticism that I had was before shit really hits the fan in the movie, there's a couple fake out jump scares that to me were just kind of lame, and they pulled me out of the movie, I'll be honest. So I know horror movies, you got to do that, but it was like two right in a row, and it was like literally right before everything started happening. So that kind of annoyed me, but everything else is great. I mean, I think it was perfectly executed. There's so many good payoffs. Again, there's like little things earlier on. I was like, do we really need all those finer details? Yes, they all have payoffs at the end, and I think they made really great use of the setting and the cinematography, the wide spaces that we have, and the ranch, and how visually appealing it all is. And Steven Yeun's character, Ricky, he has this whole Wild West park thing going on, which apparently at the end of the movie, there's a clip that says you can go see it at Universal Studios Hollywood. So look into that if you're interested. I'm curious about it. But they made really great use of that setting. So again, all the characters used very well. So I really like this movie. The thematic core is really interesting, and I'm still decoding it in my mind. So if you have your theories in the comment section down below about what everything means, I would love to hear it. So there's going to be a few standout visuals that will always be seared into my mind about this movie, and it's pretty good. So is this movie better than Get Out? that's going to be up to you. I think Get Out might have a bit more to say, but I could change my mind on that once I decode this movie and figure out what it's all about. But so I don't know that it's going to be the same explosive reaction that we got from Get Out, but I think it's a good. I like this better than Us, which I think Us kind of fell apart once you knew what was going on, and I don't know. It didn't. That movie didn't really work for me. I didn't really like it very much. I like this film better than that for sure. But that's just my opinion on this movie, guys. I enjoyed it. I recommend you go see it. And I just want to see more original content like this. And I'm really glad that there's filmmakers who are still not afraid to pursue their own vision. So we need more of that in this world today. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear from you. With that, it's been your boy Shuggy. Subscribe for more movie reviews and TV reviews. We talk horror, we talk Walking Dead, we do Resident Evil Netflix recently. We cover lots of cool stuff. So if you're into that kind of thing, definitely keep it locked on Shook Earth Media. And I'll be back with a Better Call Saul recap tomorrow night when there's a new episode. And I hope to see you guys there. Thanks for watching, everybody. Peace out.